a great strike, a great moment. We don't know what Manuel Neuer was doing, but we're glad that he did it.
After 9 years at Blues, he's gone out on such a high with us winning the league.
The FA Cup defeat was a real blow. Season 3 is better than Season 2. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Second City podcast for the 2024-2025 season review. We're here to talk about Birmingham City and Aston Villa's season in a nice in-depth review over the next 40 minutes or so. But I can't do it alone. I'm joined, as always, with Daniel Sketchton.
Hello, mate. How are you? You keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm glad we had a nice little week or so after the end of the Premier League season before we've sat down tonight to go through it, because it's been a long season, but it seems like it's gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it's mad. I was looking back on had a quick look back on the season review we did last year at the end of the 23-24 season, just to like remind myself of some of the categories we'd done and stuff. And yeah, I can't believe that was a year ago. I know we did our end of 2024 review, so maybe that's why I'm getting the two mixed up a bit, maybe. But yeah, it's absolutely flown by. I remember sort of from a Blues perspective, like the misery of being relegated and how devastating it felt. It's kind of mad to think that's all kind of in the past now. Time to move on. But yeah, I'm good. How are you? You keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been very busy the last couple of weeks. And then I go on holiday next week as well. So ready to get this in. And mentally, I've already checked out of work for this week. I just want to be on the beach. So
Yeah. I can imagine. I do apologise if there's a slight lag on this at all as well for anyone watching. We are doing it over Zoom this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it in person. But hopefully we'll do a few episodes over the summer in person and stuff. That should be something to look forward to as well. So what are we doing today, Cal? We're going to go through a series of topics and review the Blues and Villas seasons respectively, I think is the aim of the game, right?
yeah, so if you watched last year, you'll kind of understand the gist of this already. But if you are new to the channel, I think we have quite a lot of new viewers and listeners over the last few weeks. We're going to be talking about favourite games, the best games we went to, best of the season, goals of the season, team of the season is a big one at the end. Few categories like that. But we will start off with a summary of the year. So in case you were living under a rock, or you've only just got into football, or you weren't interested in what was happening on each side of the Second City this year, we'll do a little recap on what was the season like, what were the big moments through 24-25. Should we start with Blues, Dan, because your season ended about a month ago, maybe even 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
it was a month to the day, I think.
yeah, I mean, you've probably forgotten yourself, so remind us, talk to us about your landmark season.
No, I did have a little recap. I did have a little scroll through Wikipedia. I had a look at the goals compilation again, just to be safe. Yeah, a month to the day our season finished, and it's been. I mentioned before about like the sort of the disappointment, the shock of relegation last year in the first year under Knighthead's ownership at Blues. It was not in the script at all. But when we went down, Gary Cook said something like, "The comeback will be stronger than the setback," and he could not have been more correct. The comeback has been everything we could have hoped for and more, really, in a league sense. 111 points amassed. We only lost 3 games all season in the league. Record breakers in every sense. Unbeaten at home all season. The highest points tally ever set by a club in England, in the top 4 tiers in England. Chris Davies has come in, signed, I think it was like 17 new players or something in the summer. A complete overhaul. A complete overhaul of the staff, the playing staff, the style of play. And it's been an absolute walk in the park. I kind of can't believe it. The whole "we're in for a shock" thing started on day one, and that's been exactly the case. The irony of it, I should say, the sort of irony of singing "we're in for a shock," just never even looked in doubt. We weren't like the sort of swashbuckling, winning 5-0 every week that I think everyone expected, but we were this just super in control, almost always. We only lost 3 games, as I say, out of 46 in the league. Just complete domination in terms of possession and style of play. It was really unlike anything I've seen from Blues before. So it wasn't always super exciting, but it was super efficient. And I have got a lot of there's a lot of individual games, individual moments that will really stand out for me over the years, which we'll get into a bit more when we talk about best game and best goal and so on. So it's been an absolute pleasure to watch Blues this year, and it's the start of something really special. And I think this is kind of how we all thought we'd feel when Knighthead came in 2023. I think this is how we thought we'd feel always. It's just this. Oh, this is how it's always going to be. But then obviously that first year didn't go well. Listen to our review from last year if you want a reminder on all that. But this year has been outstanding. And if I had to give it a mark out of 10, I'd give it a 9. Why I'm not giving it a 10, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yes, a 9 out of 10 for Blues this year. So it's been terrific. And obviously we spent all that money in the summer at Stansfield breaking record transfer fees and big money signings on Clara and Iwata and so on. Um, but there's only one way you can respond to all the criticism of relegation and all the money that we've spent is just to obliterate every record and come up
It
and
really is, isn't
uh,
it?
it really is. So it's been a pleasure. Yeah, it's been wonderful. So that's Blues, 9 out of 10. How about Villa? How have you been this year, Cal? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, you should watch last year's season review just for the kit that you wore on that episode, because that is one of the all-time greats in Birmingham City.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, sorry.
It
Well,
is.
the go back
Well,
and find
yeah,
out
go
what.
back and watch it because it's worth watching just for the kit. This season
Yeah.
has been, it's been a ride. It's been a real ride. And I have enjoyed it. So it was, of course, the 150th anniversary season for Aston Villa, which saw us qualify for Europe for the third year in a row, while making an FA Cup semi-final for the first time in 10 years. And we also got to the quarter-finals of the Champions League. We qualified for the top eight in the league phase of that. Something that Real Madrid, Manchester City, the eventual winners, PSG, none of them managed to do that. Um, and the season saw some hugely historic wins as well. Unai Emery's side only lost twice at home in all competitions. Arsenal on the opening home game of the season in the Premier League, and our bogey side, Crystal Palace, knocked us out of the League Cup. I think it was the fourth round off the top of my head. And it wasn't all rosy this season. We had one win in 8 league games from the end of September to the start of December, coupled with that loss to Palace and a bizarre defeat away at Club Brugge as well. So it left Villa with a lot of work to do, on all fronts, to be honest. And then we had another wretched spell in late January into early February, where the thoughts of European qualification kind of seemed like a pipe dream. It all accumulated in a horrendous night against Crystal Palace. There's a theme developing here. But then we had 8 wins in the last 10 league games, which was enough to make us qualify for the Europa League. We had a narrow aggregate defeat to PSG, where we did beat them at Villa Park, but it ultimately went out on the night. And then a few days later, we were thumped against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup by 3 goals to nil, which saw hopes of first silverware in a generation disappear as well. And then we also had a really bad final day where we lost at Old Trafford, and it meant the Champions League dream died. But we had some good standouts. Morgan Rogers and Yuri Tielemans, absolutely unbelievable players across the season. Ollie Watkins broke Gabby Agbonlahor's Premier League goal scoring record, saw off the threat of John Duran, who provided some unbelievable moments in the first half of the year as well. So a season of ups and downs, but what a ride it was.
Yeah, I think you've been a slight. I know it sounds like you maybe didn't get over the line with a lot of it, but a season of ups and downs. I would say mainly ups from the outside looking in. I know you maybe didn't get over the line with a lot of it, but you've had a lot of teams be pretty envious of the season you've had.
Oh
But what
yeah,
would you give it
we.
out of 10 if you had to give it a number?
I mean, when we sat here in early August, I said to you, be in Europe and
You did,
get
yeah.
into the knockout rounds of the Champions League. So and when I said be in Europe, that is the Conference League, really. Make sure we're in that. We're better than that. And we got to quarterfinals of the Champions League. We had some unbelievable European nights. We did not lose a single home game in Europe, and I think we won all bar one, which was against Juventus, which we should have won because we had a goal in the last minute, unfairly ruled out. So, yeah, a grade. It's probably an 8.5, 9, something like that. I think the FA Cup defeat was a real blow, and we'll come on to that.
Yeah, interesting then. So it's fair to say, on the whole, we're happier than we were a year, or at least I'm a lot happier than I was a
Yeah.
year ago. It was very contrasting emotions last year. Shall we get into our main categories then? Shall we start with best game slash best game you attended? So because the slash is in there because for me it's the same game, so it might be the same for you as well. But
But
just in
sometimes
case
it
you wanted to
isn't.
differentiate it, sometimes it isn't exactly. And for those sort of, if you're, I don't know, playing along or whatever, or if you're doing your own as you go, it might be different. You might not have been able to get to the best game, in your opinion. Should we start with you then, Cal? What was your best game for Villa this year?
Couldn't narrow it down to two. And I think unlike last year, have been to both of them. So one of them was, and it might be a complete curveball for people watching this, but Wickham away in the third round of the League Cup was up there. Um, a game, not one for the
For
memory, but
personal reasons, or
yeah, because I met Unai Emery that night. Got a nice little selfie with Unai Emery before the game, so that was a real highlight. And Adams Park is like 15 minutes down the road for me, so it was great. Um, but I guess the real best game of the season is unsurprisingly Bayern Munich at home. The first home Champions League game. Got to be there with Dad. An unbelievable night where we beat Bayern Munich 42 years after we beat them in the final of the competition to win it. Yeah, it, feels like a bit of a fever dream. Like it's kind of it really that might take a few years to really sink in what happened that night, really. Um, so that was probably the best game. PSG was really good as well. It's just a shame that we even though we won that night, we did get knocked out because that had the ability to be one of the all-time classics, like one of our best ever European nights ever. And while it still was a really good one, I don't feel like because we went out, I can quite put it at the top of the list.
cool. That's fair enough. Should we move on to Blues? Best game for Blues?
Yeah, so you did pretty much all the home games and a handful of away games this year, and a trip to Wembley
Yeah.
as well, Dan. So I'm guessing the trip to Wembley wasn't your best game of the season.
No, that'll be popping up in another category
Yeah.
later on, unfortunately. But no, yes, yeah, I missed. I think I missed about three home games this year in the league. But yeah, I went to a few away games as well, like you say. Few honourable mentions to start with. Um, for this season. So I'll say the Wrexham home game. I'm actually going to say was my favourite league game. That was way back in September. We beat them 3-1 on like a Monday night, and a huge deal was made about it, obviously because like Tom Brady was going and David Beckham and not Ryan Reynolds and all that. So everyone was, Monday night, like blood red sky overhead as the sun was setting. Went 1-0 down really early on, and then just completely turned it around. Two goals from Stansfield on his full league debut for us as a permanent Blues player, and then an amazing goal from Tamaki Iwata made it 3-1. The place was absolutely rocking, and so early in the season, beating a team that would obviously go on to finish second, we really really early on just said, made a real statement about ourselves and what we were all about. Um, Another great league game. Barnsley 6-2 was another one. That was absolutely spectacular. I know Barnsley had a man sent off early on, but we completely turned it on. The second half was an absolute joy to be at, and in particular, the last goal was a really special moment, which I will get to in a bit more detail in a bit. Another one I would say, the Mansfield home game. That was unbelievable. Like for the last home game of the season, obviously when we actually got to do the trophy lift and Lucas Jukovic did like his leave, sort of a farewell speech, which was pretty emotional for everyone, I think, and a pretty special moment. And I mentioned in the intro about how we were just such a controlling team this season, and that was how we did it. We just dominated games, didn't really give the other teams a chance to even express themselves at all. And this was just the pinnacle of that. Yeah, 4-0, about as comfortable a win as I have ever seen from any team in my life. To be honest, it was absolute cruise control. Another great game, Wickham away, was really special. Obviously, you were there in the home end.
I was,
Um,
yes.
that was definitely my favourite away game anyway. Like middle of summer, early season, really set the tones, wonderful, and we had a lovely goal there as well, which I'll touch on. But I had two games in particular, other than the Wrexham game, that really stood out. One of them would be, then they're both in the cup, which is why Wrexham is obviously my favourite league game. One of them would be Bradford in the EFL Trophy semi-final. I know for reasons, everyone knows the tournament on the whole didn't end the way we wanted. But the semi-final was a really special night. It was a full house, and it was mad because it was like a League One team against the League Two team. We should have been the favourites, and we were, and we should have won, and we did. So like, what you'd think, well, could it have been that special? But it really was. I think anyone who was there will tell you it was a really great night. Um, and in particular, I'd had a really bad, I had a really bad week. I had a lot going on, kind of outside in my personal life and stuff. And that day in particular, I'd had a really, really awful day. Um, and I kind of went to the game. Obviously, I was excited for the game because it was a big game, but it was like I really needed to like just clear my head a bit and just go and enjoy the game. And I think it was like a testament to like the power of escapism that football can provide. It really was. It was absolutely the right decision to go, and it helped me forget about stuff for just a couple of hours at least, which was really important. And I think everyone needs something like that in their lives. So I was really pleased that could do that. And the Dykes winner was just old school, proper Blues goal. Loved it. It was, you know, bullet header in the box, like right in front of the tilt, and amazing. But, and I know I'm going on here, but my number one game, and I'm not saying this to be like controversial or just to be different. It really annoys me when people do that when they deliberately pick a wild. It's not actually their favorite; they just pick it to be different or to make a headline. My favorite game is a game we lost, and I don't know
Yeah.
how,
Yeah. I know which one you're going to
but
pick.
it has to be. And I've asked a couple of people. Like I said, told them we were doing this tonight, and I was like, am I being just too against the grain to pick this? And they were like, no, that was my favorite game as well, and that was Newcastle in the cup. It was just obviously we lost 3-2, but it's the game I think back on the most. It had two of the best limbs, two of the best goal limbs I've ever seen at a Blues game ever. It's probably got the best goal I've ever seen in person at a Blues game from a Blues player. I know we lost, but we went toe to toe with a top gun in the Premier League, and we made an absolute statement live on national TV. Fireworks were going off. It was as good an atmosphere as I've seen at Blues in 10 years, probably. So I know we lost. It was one of only two losses I went to all season, or three, I should say. But yeah, Newcastle at home in the cup. Somehow it's my favourite. It was Blues made a statement that night, and that was the night we were, the. Hopefully, if we go on the journey we're expected to go on, it's the kind of night we'll look back on and be like, yeah, it started there. That was where it really began. Yeah, a really special night, and I'll touch on it a bit more later in some of the other categories. But yeah, Newcastle at home in the FA Cup was wonderful.
Before we get on to all the really nice, great stuff that happened across the season, shall we talk about the worst game of the season, maybe the lowest point of the season,
Yeah,
where things just did not go the way we wanted them to go?
yeah. Shall I start this one or should you?
Yeah, yeah, you lead off.
Sure. So I mentioned in the intro that that it was a 9 out of 10, and the season summary that we've done. I was giving the season a 9 out of 10, and I feel like you can't break every points record, 111 points. We did 12 league doubles this year, 12 double, like as in beat the same team home and away in the league. Um, Best, one of the best defenses, one of the best attacks. We were just supreme at everything all season long. Promoted effectively. We beat Wickham in March, and we were effectively promoted on the 1st of March, which was ridiculous. So how can it not be a 10? Obviously, the one thing was the EFL trophy, which was all going well. We had the semi-final night. Everyone was super excited. 50,000 Blues fans going down to Wembley. We're going to replicate what we did in 1995 when we were last in the third division. We're going to win the league and we're going to win the EFL trophy. And for a more in-depth summary, please go back and watch a video we did on it at the time where we talked about it all in a bit more in depth. But Blues just completely blew it in the final, as I'm sure every Blues fan knows, against Peterborough. We just didn't turn up at all. And the whole game, I had a great day, don't get me wrong. The day on the whole was great. It was a fun trip on the bus down and in and around London. Um, but Blues just did not turn up at all. It was our worst performance of the season, probably that I went to. Um, Peterborough just looked more up for it. They scored two great goals in the first half, and yeah, just the whole thing. The atmosphere felt kind of flat. I wonder if at Wembley Blues inherently suit being the underdog, and we weren't that day. Maybe that set us back a bit. Um, it was just a shock, and the fact that we got promoted like 4 days earlier against Peterborough as well, and we celebrated on their pitch. Probably motivated them. Our players had probably had a couple of days enjoying themselves, maybe. Um, yeah, we didn't turn up at all. So that is easily my lowest point of the season. Definitely the worst But, like, I know it's only the EFL trophy. It was only in inverted commas the EFL trophy, but like being there and losing that final,
You want
it
to
did
win it.
hurt.
If you're in it, you want to win it.
Exactly. I know it. Hopefully, it's the kind of thing in 10 years we'll look back on and we'll have gone way beyond that. But trips to Wembley are special. I've only got to go to Blues with Wembley. I say only twice, as people have never got to go. But Villa have been 101 times in the last 10 years. We don't get to go all that often. These things are a rarity and they are special. So for us to just not turn up at all, it hurt. And what was a really good day should have been an all-timer. And the Blues just let it down. But so that was my my worst game, my lowest point on the pitch. Honourable mention in the league. In about November, we lost 3-2 away at Shrewsbury, who were bottom, and that, oh God, we were awful, awful. I didn't go, thankfully. But the one good thing that came out of that was we really turned it on between then and Christmas and didn't lose again. Um, and only lost one game in the league for the rest of the season. But yeah, definitely the EFL Trophy was the lowest point, and the only thing that stops the season being a 10 out of 10. So yeah, that was mine. How about you?
I mean, for some dishonourable mentions, Wolves away, Palace away, Monaco away, they all come to mind. I think they were all within a couple of days of each other as well. It was a
Mm.
disastrous run of games that um along Ipswich away, a lot of away games because we our home form was really good this year. But the worst, unsurprisingly, and very similarly, comes under the Wembley Arch, which was the semi-final against Crystal Palace. Um, Again, we only spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. If you want more in-depth heartbreak, um, yeah, and it's similar to what you said as well, Dan. It's what stopped the season being graded so much higher. Um, I don't know. It was such a disappointment that day. We didn't turn up. We got absolutely battered. 3-0 to Palace did not flatter them in the slightest. They missed a penalty. And for a trophy we haven't won since 1957, what a great opportunity we had. And we blew it. We totally blew it, unfortunately. Because it was an the semi-finals were us, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, and Manchester City. A Manchester City side that really hasn't been at its best this year. It's not like the City of the last few years who have steamrolled their way through every competition that they've played. Nottingham Forest, while they were having a great season, were tailing off at the end of the year. And a Crystal Palace side that yet again finished 12th. So, um,
I mean, ultimately, there's no reason why if you'd won that semi-final, you could have won the. There's nothing that to say you couldn't have won the whole competition, really.
no, it's completely different to say the 2020 League Cup final where we were fighting for our lives to stay in the league, having just got promoted, and we were coming up against a Manchester City side that, and albeit they didn't win the league that year, they'd won it the year before and they won it the year after comfortably.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a real low point. It's the lowest coming out of a game I've been for quite a long time. While the day up until the point the game kicked off was great, the match really was a kick in the teeth.
Yeah. Would you say that biggest disappointment as well in that sense?
Yeah. No, the biggest disappointment that was up there, but I've gone for something slightly maybe left field for the biggest disappointment. I haven't picked a game.
No, that's
I
fine.
picked a player.
Yeah, I've
I
done the same,
picked
which is why I split it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I've picked Leon Bailey, and it won't be a shock to Villa fans at all. He's about to leave. He's about to go to a Saudi Pro League club I've never heard of, like Neom FC or something. So
Neon FC.
Neom, yeah. So I think Neom's
All
the
right.
the company that builds all the wacky buildings and stuff. But it's not one of the big Saudi clubs anyway. Let's put it that way. But yeah, him. He's for someone who was such a key component of all the success that we had last year, a player that stepped up when it looked like he'd been replaced in that summer. He turned into a leader on the pitch. He scored an assist in big, big moments. We got the winner against Manchester City, he scored away at Arsenal. Everyone remembers when we were away at Lille, he came off the bench and he's saying, calm down, we've got time, we've got 15 minutes, keep believing. He got rewarded with a huge bumper new contract last year. And then for 24-25, I think that nobody would have seen the season he had coming. Nobody. And yes, he had injury struggles, but his form throughout the entire season was a disaster. It took him until January to get his first goal of the season. He only scored twice in all competitions. He was effectively replaced in January. and he's now about to be flogged to Saudi for 25 million quid. And it's a real shame because he'd been a player that had flashes, but nowhere near filled his potential or anywhere near the hype when he arrived. And last year he arrived, and it all just fell away again this year for whatever reason. And I mean, he's all but left. I wish him all the best, but it's a real disappointment that it just never happened for him this year.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And the reason to clarify why we done this category, so like if you got a best game and a worst game, we're going to get onto best player and best signing and stuff. Having like a disappoint, like it's kind of the equivalent to like a worst player. You don't want to single out a worst player, but like but who just didn't quite work for you. And we'll get onto all the best players in a moment. So I'll only be brief on Blues because obviously we had so many good players and so many of our signings worked. I'd say there's like a couple that didn't really work. Emil Hansen is one of them. Who was a winger. The wings, apart from Keshi Anderson, the wings have easily been one of our weakest areas of the team all season. I think there is a good player in Hansen. We signed him from the Dutch league, but he's just not. I don't physically think he's strong enough for the EFL really, and English football on the whole. Injured a lot. You kind of can't, and you know how I feel about like players that are injured a lot. You can't build a team around them. You can't rely on them in any way. It's not their fault, but it's just how it is. So he's been a disappointment, and I don't see him either sticking around or having a big part to play next year in the championship. And then, but another one, and someone who was and who Hansen kind of went a bit anonymous in games and struggled to get involved, but someone who actively made us worse, a lot worse, was Bailey Peacock Farrell. Unfortunately, again, I don't want to single him out. I don't want to just slag him off but we were actively worse, and the defense were clearly more nervous. I think it was something mad. Like I went to Bolton away at the start of March, and I think also Eddie just got injured, so
He
we
just
missed
got
that
injured
one
at
game.
Wickham, hadn't he? At the home
That's
game
right.
at
Yes, that's
Wickham.
right. That's right. And I think it was something mad. Like between November and that game, between that loss at Shrewsbury in November and the start of that Bolton game, we'd conceded 4 goals in the league, which is it was in something like 20 games or something. It's absolutely outrageous. And then Bailey Peacock Farrell conceded 3 in one night, and it was like, oh my God. The Peterborough home game, thankfully we won 3-2, but he just had an absolute nightmare. And it was really strange because the start of the season was kind of billed as this. Chris Davies, the manager, called it a live goalkeeping competition between him and
And he
Ryan
was the
Allsop.
number one.
He was the number one. He started the first few games, the first 7 or 8 games, but after a bit, Allsop. By the end of the season, it was staggering that there was even a. You look back on it and think it's mad that there could even be a competition there, really. Um, so yeah, them two really. Probably if I had to pick one, I'd say Peacock Farrell. But we'll get onto all the good players and all the players that really shone this year in just a moment. So yeah, that was my biggest disappointment.
Let's get on to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Goal of the season, and maybe in case it's different. I know both of us did a lot of games this year, but maybe you weren't at the game with the best goal of the season.
Yeah, thankfully I was there for my favourite goal, but this is a rare season where we've had loads of good goals. Um,
Particularly from January onwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of these are great goals because they are genuinely great strikes, and some of them are like great moments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've got a few here. Kieran Dowell in the last game against Mansfield was an unbelievable team goal. So was his goal against Cambridge, which I think was in about February time. Tomoki Iwata's goal against Wrexham, which I already mentioned from outside the box to make it 3-1 was incredible. His goal against Bolton on the volley was unbelievable at home in the 2-0 win. Going way back to August, Brandon Kayla scored an amazing goal in the League Cup against Charlton. Don't forget that. That could have been the goal of the season in August. Jay Stansfield's goals against Barnsley away to make it 1-1, or against Charlton at home, where he kind of picked the ball up and drove with it and hit it from long range. They were both incredible. We had some proper limbs when Scott Wright scored against Wigan in the 91st minute to make it 2-1 right in front of the Tilton back in August. That was incredible. You were there as well, and so you saw this firsthand. You'd have had a great view of this one. Willem Willemsen's goal against Wickham. Oh my God, I
I
watched
did
that
have a
again.
great view of it. Yeah.
The technique on that goal is unreal. I love that goal. That'd be my top 5 goals. I don't think people talk enough about how good it is. Like bounce back to him on a half volley, just outside of the boot, bosh, like
Just
top
twatted
left
it
hand
into the
corner.
top of the net, didn't he?
Oh, unbelievable! I absolutely love that goal. Um, few others. Lyndon Dykes obviously scored that amazing goal against Lincoln in the FA Cup, which also could have been goal of the year. That is an absolutely incredible goal where he kind of bopped it over one's head and then volleyed it in from long range. Absolutely incredible. Um, Keshi Anderson scored an amazing goal against Huddersfield, where he sort of chest it down and then volleyed it all the way in, like looped it in all the way over the keeper's head. Incredible goal. But my two favourite goals in second place is Lucas Jukovic's, obviously, against Barnsley in the 6-2 win. It was the sixth goal. He only scored one league goal this year, the Duke. We didn't know by this point that he was retiring for sure, but it was likely. And thankfully, like Duke's retirement after 9 years at Blues, he's gone out on such a high with us winning the league. Obviously I'm sad to see him go, but I'm so satisfied. He's gone on such a high. I'm really pleased for him. It's a really great way to end it. And him getting this goal just a few games before the end, right in front of the Tilton. It's actually the first goal he scored against us, scored for us, sorry, at home, since he scored against Leeds in the penalty in Knighthead's first game about nearly 2 years ago now, which is remarkable. Which John Eustace was still the manager back then, and a lot's happened since then. But I think
That'll
the fact
be
that he
a
nearly
quiz
missed it,
question in years to come.
it will be here. The fact that he nearly missed, that the keeper like saved it and then he looped it over him right in front of the Tilton, it was kind of just carnage, and then I remember just looking down and just seeing him run past me like at the front, and it's really special, and it's definitely the loudest I've heard myself shout as well. I don't really notice that normally, but it was really special, and everyone felt that. But number one, I mean, because I was there, probably makes it more biased towards it, and the occasion, and it's that Newcastle game again. Ethan Led's first goal is the limbs were mental in the first minute, but that Iwata goal, the second goal, everyone's seen it a million times. Even you said it when you saw it.
It's a wonderful goal.
Absolutely, it's incredible the technique on it, and there's the bedlam to go 2-1 down and then pull that out of the bag. I mean, it's incredible goal. Probably the best goal I've ever seen in person. I've watched it over and over and over again. And just the occasion and the event of it was so special. So yeah, Water against Newcastle goal of the year, obviously, it has to be. How about you? You've seen some good goals this year as well.
I have seen some good goals this year. Some honourable mentions. Watkins versus Southampton. St Mary's was an absolutely cracking goal, and I was undercover that day, and somehow had to restrain the urge to like jump up and celebrate because it was a great moment, but also a great goal as well. Um, Konza versus PSG, the limbs when that went in were something else. Um, it's always a what could have been if we'd have got another one that night, because I think I would have ended up launching myself off the top of the whole end, off the top of the north stand. Um, but I narrowed it down to three, the top three. So in third place would be McGinn versus PSG. It's a great goal, and also it got us back in the tie, and the limbs were pretty good, and that was a really good moment. Um,
Did I take a
second,
deflection?
no, it's just the
Oh,
way he hits it is just
fair enough.
moving in the air a bit. And it also won the club's goal of the season as well. But there is a reason why it won, as will be as you'll start to work out is so in second place I've gone with John Duran versus Bayern Munich. A great strike, a great moment. We don't know what Manuel Neuer was doing, but we're glad that he did it. Um, I mean, the pass from Pau Torres is exquisite, and it's one of the real attributes to his game and what he brings to the Villa side. Um, and it's the sort of goal that only John Duran would have scored. No, no, no other striker would just see the ball bouncing towards him, just whack it and just hope it went in. I love Ollie Watkins to pieces, but I know what someone like Ollie or another striker would do, which is they'd bring it down, they'd try and maybe run past Umacano or. But Duran was a moments player, and boy, were the moments good. And that was the best goal that I scored live, because the best goal of the season, unfortunately, I was not there. I think I was working in Italy, and it was quite loud in a very important meeting while watching this on my phone. And it was John Duran versus Everton, an absolute screamer that was robbed of Premier League goal of the season. It is an unbelievable strike, and again, only a goal that John Duran could have scored, because who in their right mind smacks the ball from 20 yards, 25 yards out, or whatever it was, when a shot isn't even on? It's just a ridiculous goal. I mean, I love Emmy Martinez's face when the camera cuts to him and he's like, yeah, unbelievable goal and comfortably goal of the season. But he didn't win the club's goal of the season because obviously he left in January, so you're not going to give an award to a player that isn't at the awards
Okay.
night.
That's
So,
very true. Yeah, very true.
um, but yeah, he comfortably wins goal of the season.
Very good. Um, shall we get on to so another kind of slash category here? Should we get on to best player slash signing? So the reason it's a slash is because mine's the same player. So I don't know if yours is the same or different or
Mine is
whatever.
different.
Okay, cool. Should we start with you this time then? Who's your best player?
Player of the season, I've hinted at it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, was Yuri Tielemans. A player that, when he joined last season, struggled to get in the team. We remember him not moaning, but being a bit frustrated in the Belgian media in that first international break, saying, "Oh, I can't get in the team. They're just picking the same players that they pick from last season, and I need to try and get in the team." And when he got in the team, he was excellent, and then he got injured, and we really missed him. This year, he's played pretty much every game, apart from a couple towards the end, and he's been sublime. Whether he's played in the sort of number 10 role, most of the time he's played in the double pivot with either Anana or Kamara. And I mean, I'm not an American football expert by any means, but he's a bit like a quarterback. He just he picks the ball up in the middle of the park and just pings it and plays exquisite pass after exquisite pass. And then he's also popped up with a few goals. He scored two headers this year. I mean, I don't think he's ever scored a header in his life. He's managed to score two. Scored our first goal back in the Champions League away at Young Boys. Got us back in the game away at Arsenal, where he almost scored two in about a minute. Um, but yeah, comfortably player of the season and someone that's really stepped up and improved. I mean, everyone was saying he was finished when Leicester got relegated, that he was lazy, he couldn't run, and he's now one of the best players in the league again. Yeah, it easily Yuri Tielemans. What about you? Who was your player of the season? And if it's a sign, obviously it was going to be a signing of the season as well because you signed an entire new squad last year.
Yeah, yeah, it was bound to be. Most of our star players were new signings. Honourable mentions: Keshi Anderson has completely rebuilt himself this year. He's been unbelievable. After I know there's rumours that I can't remember if it was Rooney or Mo. I think it might have been Rooney. He was thinking about selling him before he got sacked. It might have been Mowbray actually. I can't remember. There was some rumours that he was going to leave in like January 2024. Um, for him to come back and completely make himself our best. I mean, he's our best winger by a mile. Um, he's had a brilliant season. He's been fantastic. Alex Cochrane has been Mr. Reliable at left back. He's played more than anyone. I'm pretty sure he's been exceptional. Ryan Allsop, as I say, completely cemented himself as the main keeper. Brilliant. Not only a good shot stopper, but brilliant distribution. He's been excellent. Pek Song Ho has been brilliant. Tamaki Iwata might be my favourite player. The goals he scored have been so special. He's given me the best moments, I feel like. Stansfield had a great season. I know people criticise him a bit for all his goals being penalties, but he also had a lot of, he also played on the wing quite a lot, and so I think he's been great. But Christoph Clara has come in. He's basically our captain now. To basically dislodge Bielik, who was our captain for a lot of the season, and he's a great player. I really like Bielik, and I'd keep him. Clara's been unbelievable. We only conceded 31 goals this year, and he's in large part down to him. New signing. He's only 24. He's going to be with us for some time, and I think he's really special. And we're only just getting started with him. He's been an absolute rock, and I think he's the kind of player that's going to, be with us for some time. I think we're only just getting started with him, and I think if we continue on the trajectory that we're hoping to, and that Nighthead are talking about, I think he's going to be at the center of that. Literally, I think he's been remarkable. So as I said, I would love to give it to Iwata, but I feel like Clara has been. He won all our official awards at the actual award ceremony, so he's been so special. So yeah, best player and signing for me has been incredible. Money well spent, which I think was about £4 million, which for League One is a lot of money, but he's lived up to it in every way. So we've heard your best player. What about best signing though? Because it is a difference for you this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I looked through our transfer business across the year. Probably not one of our strongest years, really, in the transfer market. And obviously, a lot was made of our winter window, with the likes of Marcus Rashford and Marco Asensio. And I feel like I should be picking one of those. Um, and it probably would have been Asensio. I think he scored in like six or seven in his like first eight games. He was unbelievable as soon as he came straight in the team. He scored twice to turn the game around at home to Chelsea. But post PSG, where he missed a one-on-one, and in particular post Southampton, where he missed two penalties, and then we had the PSG game where he missed the one-on-one. he was never really the same again, and he really sort of ghosted through a lot of games towards the end of the season, apart from Spurs at home. So I feel like for that, I can't put him in there. I mean, he was completely anonymous at Wembley in the semi-final. Um, but I wanted to pick a player particularly from the summer window because these are players who have probably been here for the whole season, and it was actually a really weak window when you look at it. In terms of if you look at our strongest 11, which we'll get onto this season, how many of those players were already here? And while that window was all about adding depth, and which we did throughout the season, um, you think we lost Douglas Luiz and Musa Diaby, who were two starters in that team. Really, we never replaced them for starters. Um, but I've gone for Amadou Onana. Missed a lot of games with injury, but when he played, he was class. He was great at home to PSG. He was really, really good away at Bournemouth towards in the right at the end of the run in. And he started the season so well. He added some strength, some height, much needed height into our team. Um, I mean, he had a great start. He scored 3 goals really early on. Scored an absolute cracker at home to Newcastle. And a player that there's rumours about whether the Saudis are after him or not. I hope we keep him because he's a young player that I think will only get stronger and stronger in this Aston Villa side. So I will go for him.
Very good. So that kind of segues us nicely onto best. So this is a bit of can be a difficult one, but best 11. You're starting 11 of the season, and I guess like how would you remember this season by in years to come? What would the 11 you'll think of, if you know what I mean? So it's a little trickier, and I think everyone's can be a little different. But do you have a team starting 11 for Villa this year that you'll look back and I think, yeah, that was our best 24-25 team that got us to have the good season we've had?
Yeah, I mean, although this team probably, as it gets revealed, never really worked as an 11, but these were
I have,
comfortably
yeah.
the best 11 players um, for us really. And you look, and we'll see how it goes. So no competition for Emi Martinez in goal. Not his best season, but still a pretty good one. And I hope it isn't the last we see of him in an Aston Villa shirt. The back four: Matty Cash, Ezri Konza, and then the second centre back. I've gone for Tyrone Mings. I think for someone who came back from a awful, awful ACL injury, one of the worst types of ACL injury you could have. For a player at his age, I think a lot of people, and maybe rightly so, would have thought he was done at the top level of English football and European football. And yet, barring a really bizarre moment in Bruges, he's been brilliant. He was man of the match on his Premier League return. I don't think we've lost a game in the league that he's played this season. Um, and while Pau Torres was in this team last year, when he maybe struggled with the amount of games he had to play in the first half of the year, then picked up an injury, and and only just sort of coming back into the side. So we've got more. There's more to come from Pau Torres because he is probably our second best centre back or our best centre back. But I think for this season, Tyrone Mings really showed us that he's still got it. Left back, no question, Luca Dean. What a turnaround this man has had in the last 2 seasons under Unai Emery. A player under Steven Gerrard, who we were looking at going, God, he's not better than Matt Target, is he? And he's back in the France squad. That's how big the turnaround has been. This French side is unbelievable, and he's back in that squad. So he is easily left back. Centre mid, Yuri Tielemans, player of the season. Boubacar Kamara also came back from an ACL and really showed how important he was to our side. Very versatile. He played centre back at points in the season when we had our mini defensive crisis. Um, will be a top player. He's not there yet, and there are chinks in his armour, but he's such a vital player for us. We obviously play a 4-4-2. So I've put on the right, I've put John McGinn. Didn't play out there a whole amount this year, played a bit more in the middle or on the left. But he did play out on the right a few times. I mean, for someone who was playing for us in the championship, still a key player to this Villa side. Um, the left side, Morgan Rogers, really close not to be player of the season. What a year he's had. Someone who we plucked out of Middlesbrough in January last year to be like Maybe he's one for the future. We can rotate him with maybe Jacob Ramsey or Nicolo Zaniolo a little bit and bed him in slowly. I mean, he's £100 million player all of a sudden out of nowhere. He's probably going to go to the World Cup with England. Yeah, an amazing season for him, and the sky is the limit for him. Really loved him in the 10 at the start of the season. Very good off the left, and he's very good off the right as well. Maybe not his best out of those three, but if we're going to be a better team, he can play there, and particularly with the struggles of Leon Bailey, he filled that void very, very well. And then I've gone for two strikers rather than a number 10. Ollie Watkins gets a lot of criticism. His work rate is brilliant. His assist numbers are great. And he still hits 15 goals a season. I think he scored more than that. Always hits more than double figures for us.
Triple figures.
Yeah,
More than double figures. No,
more than double figures. Always hits double figures.
Sorry.
He's the sort of player that, as a fan base, we criminally underrate and someone that you won't miss until they're gone. And so he gets in this side. We are so much a better team when he plays. And I know Marcus Rashford did well in the nine. Watkins is always going to be the choice as an out and out number nine, which is part of the reason why we probably won't sign Rashford. And the other striker I've gone for is John Duran. The moments in the first half of the year and the amount of goals he scored as well in that, mostly off the bench. Yeah, look, you couldn't play Watkins and Duran together because it was a disaster. But he has to be in there for the goals that he scored and the points the amount of points he earned us in the first half of the year. Without them, we wouldn't have been in Europe again. So, and we probably wouldn't have gone as deep into the Champions League as we did in the end. So he has to make this side. Um, I think the move was for the best all round, but what you know what
It was
what
good
what
while it lasted.
moments? It was good while it lasted. It was never going to be forever, but
No,
it's one you'll look back on fondly.
very good.
What about you, Dan? Because your team, mine is quite similar, I think, to last season.
Yeah.
Yours is going to be completely different, maybe bar one or two players, I imagine.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did we do? I think we did a team with
Yeah, I
a
think we
starting
did.
11 last year. Why did I do a Blues 11 last year?
I
We got
believe you
relegated.
had great difficulty to put
We
players in
did
it.
you know what we did last year? We did Blues Manager of the Season
We
category
did,
because we had
yeah.
six managers, didn't we?
We
I
had
think that
Villa
was
Badger of the season, and we still
we
managed to
did.
have two this year.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, my team of the season. Yeah, I've gone for a 4-2-3-1. I guess a little different to you. I tried to think how would this actually work as a team because that's the only real where the real discrepancies came in was like certain players didn't work in certain places and stuff. So I tried to make it work. If I was actually picking this team, where would players go? But the whole of the defense and the midfield was really straightforward to pick. Ryan Allsop in goal. Sorry, for context, I'm doing a 4-2-3-1 because that's what we played all season. Ryan Allsop in goal. His assist for the Taylor Gardner Hickman goal against Wickham alone deserves him that. The fact that he won a Golden Glove comes second. That assist against Wickham was just unbelievable. No brainer. Right back, Ethan Laird. Takes a lot of flack off Blues fans. I know he can't cross a ball to save his life, but he is an absolute athlete. There's games when he was so good. Wigan away when we won 3-0. I think he got two assists, maybe three actually. He might got all three actually. He was unbelievable. We miss him when he's not there, honestly. So I think fans are a little harsh on him. I think he's really good. And it'll be interesting to see if he gets on back in the championship next year. I get why he frustrates people, but he absolutely deserves his place. The two centre backs, Christoph Clara and Ben Davis, to keep Bielik out this squad for a lot of the season is really some achievement because I really like Bielik. So
I mean,
them two have been
especially
excellent.
when we were here this time last year, you were begging Bielik to stay.
Yeah, and I said this before we kind of went mad on splashing the cash, but I said Bielik's, signing a new contract was as good a signing as we get. I said that's a great sign, and I stand by that. And I would have, if he wants to stay, I would absolutely keep him around next year. But Davis and Clara have been a rock together this year. They've been brilliant. Cochrane, I've mentioned at left back, Alex Cochrane. He's been an absolute athlete. He played so many games this year, really consistent. Very, very rarely has he had an off day. Peck and Iwata in midfield have been they're as good as any championship midfield duo, in my opinion. They are going to be. I can't wait to see what they can do next year. If them two can stay fit and keep to the standard that they're at, what a buy Iwata was from Celtic. Them two, Peck might be the most technically gifted player to ever play in League One. They've been incredible. So the only part of the team where it starts to get a little confusing and I'm not quite sure how to work it, but this is what I've gone for. I mentioned that the wingers have been such an issue, kind of tying them down, really working out where they go. But I worked at it from this. Obviously, a lot of the early part of the season we were playing Stansfield up front and then May as the 10. I didn't really like that. May is a 9, and that's where he works best. But then Stansfield is also best as a 9. So it's really confusing. But Keshi Anderson has been exceptional. I mentioned him in my honourable mentions for Player of the Year, and he has to go on the left wing, in my opinion. We tried him on the right wing quite a bit, but him and Laird on the same side just didn't. It just doesn't work. They're kind of getting in each other's way. They're kind of playing the same spaces. So I kind of started from a point of Keshi has got to be on the left. And with our struggles in the wing and then even the number 10 position was a bit up for grabs, I just felt like May had to go in as the 9. He scored so many goals this year. I think he scored 18, 16 or 18 goals this year. He's been excellent. And if he'd played more, obviously he ended up kind of being second fiddle to Stansfield for a lot of it. If he played more, he would have, probably for the fourth year in a row, been the League One Golden Boot winner. Um, so I feel like Keshi's got to go on the left, May's got to go in as the 9, and then you got to get Stansfield in. So you either put him on the right or as the 10. And then I think Kieran Dowell, he did get Dowell's contributions, goal contributions were excellent. I know I've been a little critical of Dowell. I was very, very critical of him after the EFL Trophy, and rightfully so because he was very poor. But the stats don't lie. He has been a good signing over the summer. I'm not sure I would go in for him straight away again over the summer. I think there's maybe other players out there, but I think he was a great signing in January. He was to kind of contribute goals and assists. I think I'd probably put Dowell in the middle and Stansfield on the right. I don't know if that's what I would do. Stansfield playing on his weaker side. I don't know, but Kishi's got to go on the left and May's got to go up front. So that's how I would work it. So that's my team. Allsop in goal, back four of Laird, Clara, Davis, Cochrane, midfield two of Peck and Iwata, three behind the striker of Keshi, Dowell, Stansfield, and then up front I'd have Alfie May. Couple of honourable mentions. Taylor Gardner Hickman's had a really good season, but the only thing is he plays everywhere. I couldn't pick like one position to put him in. He's like if I had to pick a team of one player in every position, it'd maybe be him or Ryan Allsop. They're both. He's an excellent player, and Bielik as well. I think when he's played, he's been good. So them two are a little unlucky not to get in the team, but yes, that is my Blues team of the season for 24-25, and what a season it's been.
You
Now,
mentioned there,
oh sorry, go on, cut you up
you
there.
mentioned there, you probably wouldn't go in for Kieran Dow. I'm going to
Yeah.
put you on the spot here. Three players that you think you might be in for. They don't necessarily have to sign, but what three players you think you will see news reports of we are linked with this summer? Because we
Uh,
probably won't do anything in terms of this transfer rumor and this transfer rumor. And by the time we do
yeah.
our season preview, the transfer window will probably be about to close.
Yeah.
So a small look ahead. Who do you think you're going to be in for potentially?
It's hard because I'm not actually as up to date with it all as I probably should be. Like you said, we don't really do transfer rumors, so I don't really talk about it all that much. Paku for one from Peterborough, who ripped us apart in the EFL Trophy final. He'll definitely be there or thereabouts, and he would probably be what we need. Um, I mean, we've been linked to Shay Adams, so I'll say that. I don't think it'll happen. But someone been linked with Paku, I think will happen. Shay, I'm not sure will. I think it's gone a little quiet. And then obviously it was already signed Phil Neumann. Oh, I mean, it's cheating a bit. Ben Davis, I think obviously he was on loan. I think we'll be linked with him. I'm not sure that'll happen. A bit like
That's
Dowell,
not
I'm not
cheating.
sure.
He's not your
Go on,
player.
yeah, yeah. I'll say them. That's a little, but Poku definitely, and I think that'd be really exciting if that happens. Um, oh yeah, yeah. It's tough though. What about you? What are you saying?
The
Jack
way
Grealish?
we, yeah, oh, I think there'll be rumours about him, but he's not a player I seriously think will be an Aston Villa player next window, and I wouldn't go in for him anyway, not for the money that he will cost. And
No,
does he get in our team? I actually genuinely do not think he does.
no, 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 no.
Um, Goalkeepers we're going to be linked with regardless because we need a new number two at the very least. If Martinez does go, I could see maybe a Jordan Pickford link potentially. Um,
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
PSR is something you got to think about as well. And some of the clubs we tended to do PSR trading with last year come into mind with these. So I think Pickford would be one. Um, has played at a high level for the national team, but has never really been able to do it at club level. And so I think Everton would sell maybe for the right price. So I think he could be an option. Um, we tend to pick up players who maybe have fallen out of favour at bigger clubs. And so I could maybe see a link to a Mason Mount potentially up until the point where he scored twice in the Europa League. But I can't see Rashford happening. So I would say Mason Mount potentially. Man United will sell, probably cut price. And I think he suits our system. Could play off that right hand side. And one final one I'll say, Nicholas Jackson. We were linked with him last summer, and I would love to see him in this Villa side.
I thought you hated Nicholas Jackson. You play for Chelsea, the Chelsea striker.
The Chelsea striker. I've
I
U-turned
I
on Nicholas
could.
Jackson. I'm critical of him as a sole number nine. I think he was an Unai Emery player at Villarreal, and I think if you look at our system that we play now, I think he suits our system really, really well. Him and Watkins as a two up top, I think would be really tasty.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You mentioned keepers actually. That's a good point. We'll keep Allsop for sure, but we're definitely going to need another keeper. Whether they go for a challenger as number one or a backup, be interesting. But yeah, that's a good point. And that brings me on to again putting you on the spot instead here this time, and we'll touch on this more when we get to our preview. But very, very early hopes, dreams, and maybe a prediction for 25-26.
I mean, what will become the norm of these is Europe again has to be the number one priority. Um, and I think this was a year where a lot of underdogs ended trophy droughts, and we blew our chance to do it. And I think
Yeah.
I was talking before, ironically enough, and this is honest to God true, when we were in the pub before the FA Cup semi-final, we were talking to someone. I said we don't want to be like that Spurs side under Pochettino. Everyone, you remember how good that Spurs side was under Pochettino. They got a Champions League final. They finished second in the league twice, but they never won anything.
Yeah.
We do not want to be a team that looks back and go, "Oh, look at the team that we had. We had a manager in Unai Emery who wins trophies wherever he goes, but we didn't win anything." I've never seen us win a major trophy, and that I think has to become a priority for this crop of players and this management structure. End the trophy drought because finishing in Europe consistently will help make you a big club, but everyone only remembers the trophies you win more than the league position that you finish in. Okay, maybe it's a bad example, but in 10 years, we probably will remember Tottenham finished 17th and won a trophy, but no one cares that they finished 17th. If you're ask a Spurs fan, they're not going to care that they finished 17th. They won the Europa League. It's a big trophy to win. Crystal Palace, they finished 12th. Who cares? They won the FA Cup. So I think end the trophy drought has to be the one. And how about Blues, Dan? What is the aim for next year? The early aims? Probably, my guess would be stay in the league.
No, we got higher ambitions than that, mate.
You want to
But
get
well,
relegated? All right, that's fine.
no, no, I don't. I don't. Although Wenry is out of work, so who knows? Um, no, I don't know if you've seen some of the early bookies favorites, and it is all nonsense because it's all super early. But they've got us like fourth, fifth, which is a bit like whoa. Um, it is too early to say, which kind of defeats the point of this. But I think if we have a solid, if we finish like between 10th and 12th next year, that's a really good season. That would be our highest finish for like 10 years at least. But let's see how we get on in the summer because I think our squad's more than ready to, be top half and who knows from there. But I think as well, let's temper expectations slightly. If Blues are don't get playoffs and we're not even really in that ballpark, but we are stable mid-table, let's that's good still, that let's not, let's put it into perspective a bit. We thought in 2023 we were ready to do something really special and look how that turned out. But who knows? Let's see where the summer goes. Obviously, going into the summer, we've got the Amazon documentary coming out. It's a great time to be a Blues fan. We've had an amazing season. It's really exciting what the future holds. So let's enjoy it. It's not a rush, I'd love us to do in Ipswich, but let's just enjoy it. Let's have a fun season next year and hopefully build under Davis. And it may take a little while for it to click in the championship because it is a big step up. But I'm really looking forward to it. It should be great.
What I would say maybe on the Ipswich thing is that, yeah, they had the back-to-back promotions, but because they got promoted so quickly, they were in no way, shape, or form ready to fight in the Premier League. So are you better off
Yeah.
building properly? And don't get me wrong, if you got promoted last year, you're not going to turn it down because the money you get from the Premier League is so vast, but you probably got really, bearing in mind you're fighting with clubs that are starting to really yo-yo between the divisions. They've got the parachute payments. I think you could be in danger of, the chances are if you get promoted anyway in the next 5 years, you're coming straight back down because that's how the gulf between the two divisions is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you've got the same teams yo-yoing up and down. So, but it's something maybe to think about. Maybe, sometimes you're better off going up when you're ready, but then the opportunity doesn't always come.
Yeah, very true. But yeah, who knows? Let's see where it goes. And I think that just about wraps us up for 24-25, this season review anyway. Do you think, Cal? Is that us done?
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. It's been great. Thank you for everyone who's listened this season. This may not actually be the end of, we call this season two of the podcast. We'll try and do some stuff over the summer, and I think we'll probably market that under season two. So it isn't really the end of our season. Hopefully, we'll try and get some stuff to you over the summer, little updates on pre-season and kits and so on. It's all good stuff. But thank you so much to everyone who's listened this year. I know the first half of the season was a little kind of intermittent, a bit stop-starty, but we've had a great time. Thank you so much, everyone. We've definitely got, had some new listeners and viewers and stuff, so that's great as well. We appreciate everyone who's helping us out. So from me, Cal, have a great holiday, and I'll see you very soon. Actually, I'm going to see you on the weekend. We're going to a gig on the weekend, so that's something to look forward to. But in the meantime, keep right on and shit on the Villa.
Yeah, just to echo everything Dan said, apart from the end bit there. Thank you for everyone who watched and listened this season. It has been a ride. I mean, we hit 350 subscribers on YouTube the other week, which is a great achievement for us. And for the podcast started after a drunken New Year's Eve night out in Pop World. I don't think we ever really believed that 2 years later we'd still be here doing it, and we can't wait for season three. Like Postacoglu said, season three is better than season two, and we'll see. We're gonna have a little break, and we'll be back very, very soon. We've got some good ideas coming up. So until then, have a great summer and up the Villa.